One thing that we think kind of sets our auto lending program apart from maybe some others in the past also is that we really focus on trying to identify kind of what's unique and what's different about a loan. And we don't just take data from a document and we fund it and we move forward and we give somebody a loan and say, have a nice day, enjoy your new vehicle. It's really more about, does this data make sense that's coming from our dealers? And does the data make sense that's coming from the documents? And does it make sense that this person would buy this vehicle? And does it make sense that this person in this position would make this income? And we really encourage and challenge our teams to dig in and look for all those uniquenesses, because that's where we identify fraud and we identify things that just aren't right.
Welcome to Pioneers, the show where we explore the intersection between humanity and AI. I'm your host, Ankur Patel. Over the last 10 years, I've built 3 AI startups, written 2 books about the subject, and I run a weekly AI newsletter. I also regularly teach and speak about the topic at conferences. This technology has grown faster than I think any of us could have imagined, and it's making us ask really important questions, such as how ethical is AI? What will this technology look like in a few years, let alone a few months? And most importantly, does it have the power to truly change the world? And what does it mean for you? On this show, I'll be interviewing the founders, operators, and pioneers that are introducing AI into their companies and industries. We'll be asking them the really heavy-hitting questions that make them dig deep into the core of what we do. And without further ado, let's dive into today's episode. Welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Ankur Patel, and today my guest is Chris Ferguson, who's Vice President of Consumer Lending at Forum Credit Union. Chris, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Could you tell us a little bit about yourself as well as what you do today with Forum Credit Union?
Yeah, certainly. As you mentioned, I'm currently Vice President of Consumer Lending at Forum Credit Union. Been a team member at Forum Credit Union for over 22 years. Started in our branch network and worked out in our branches, serving our members face-to-face, helping with opening accounts and processing loan requests and so forth for many years, and transitioned over to our lending team about 8 years ago, and currently lead our auto lending program, credit card program, and unsecured lending programs at Forum. So excited to be here and share my story.
And could you also explain a little bit more about what a credit union is, how it might be different than perhaps big multinational banks that more of our audience may be more familiar with, perhaps maybe just laying the kind of the background there?
Yeah, so credit unions are actually financial cooperatives who are owned by our members. You have a member of the credit union, you have a $5 share account, and you're a member of the credit union. So if you think about that as employees of the credit union, our job is to serve and to do the best we can for our owners and provide the most value to our owners. And so we are here serving our members. And at Forum Credit Union, we have our purpose statement of helping members live their financial dreams. And I really think that all team members here are truly focused on doing that day in and day out. And so whether we're developing a new process or a new product or trying to utilize a new technology, we're really focused on how does this impact our members? How does it help add value to our members? And is it a tool that's truly improving the service that we deliver to our members? So it's a little bit different than maybe a public company or another financial institution who is a for-profit who's really working to generate profit and generate most value for their owners in a little bit of a different light. So.
I think that really helps set the stage, right? Because I think you have the typical banking operations. Now, I think the cooperative and the way that members come first and kind of the high human touch point that you have, that's pretty unique. I mean, I think when you're part of a credit union, there's a sense of belonging, right? That you may not get with a very, very large bank, but the needs of your organization are similar in many ways to the needs of a larger multinational bank, for example. I think the challenge then becomes, how do you handle that complexity of that financial institution, without having to hire a large number of people to do so, right? And I think what I've seen, at least working with credit unions so far, is technology ends up being really important because like you need to invest in technology to make the operations more efficient, so you can go and do all the things that a bank typically needs to do, but do it for the scale and size of the broader credit union that you manage.
Yeah, it's absolutely. We're still a financial institution with same products and same financial tools that we're delivering to our members, just in a little bit different light and a little different strategy. We still have the same regulatory concerns and same compliance requirements, if not even more. Still have the strong need to protect our members' data and utilize our members' data responsibly. And we also have to think about the financial side of it. When we're spending the credit union's funds, we're spending our members, our members' funds essentially. And we have to be as prudent as possible and make sure that we're managing and being efficient with resources and thinking about it. It's the credit union. It's our members' funds that we're spending and utilizing the most effective way that we can.
Appreciate that, Chris. And I know we've been working, so Multimodal and Forum CU have been working together for a few months now. And I'm very curious, like what made Forum CU, Forum Credit Union, really decide to explore AI in the auto loan space?
Yeah, I think that when we started talking with Multimodal, I don't think that we were actively going out and searching and saying we need AI and we need this technology and we need to find an AI provider. It was really more, at Forum, I mentioned previously that we're always looking to maximize our use of technology, and we're always looking for different ways and different tools that can be available to us to improve processes and improve the way that we deliver service to our members and be as efficient as possible. As we continue to grow as a credit union, our net interest margins and other things are putting some pressures to where we have to be efficient and we have to manage our expenses the most efficient way that we can. And so we were looking and always looking at different technologies, and we're always open to sitting in on demos and talking with different vendors. And so I think that was kind of the mindset that we were in, was that we're open to hearing and learning what's available and what's out there. And then we also, in the back of our mind, have this thought that we need to be efficient and we need to grow without growing expenses as quickly as our loan growth and so forth expands. And so it just kind of came together that we came across Multimodal, the connection was there, and we learned a little bit more about what Multimodal had to offer, and we started thinking about how can we build some processes that fit in with us. And it just happened to be that the lines crossed and things came together at the right time. So.
And I love that, because I think what you're stating is like the business problems dictate solutions you bring in. It's not like you have a mandate to go and adopt more AI, but if software technology in the form of AI in this case is able to make the business more productive, more valuable, there's real occasion to go and explore, right? And I think what happens is that every new technology inflection point is a little daunting. It's a little bit, okay, well, what is this? What can I do with it? What use cases should I explore? And can I do this in a maybe like a low risk way to see value from it? Can I then go and invest more in it? But ultimately you have to kind of walk through that journey, right? It is a hard journey for a lot of organizations, and we see that both small and large. It's like everyone's trying to figure out like, what can you do with this new technology that people are claiming is such a disruptive technology? It's going to kind of be like a before AI and after AI moment, similar to how the internet was. But I think you need to start somewhere, right? And I think for you, that was and is the auto lending space, at least in our work together. So how did you come to the point where this was the area that you identified as being the starting point for the journey together?
Yeah, I think that auto lending at Forum, it's our largest lending channel that we have. It's currently one of our strongest performing lending channels that we have. And as we continue to grow, the reason why it is as valuable and as beneficial to the credit union financially is because we've been able to generate a high volume of auto loans with minimal resources. We have a small team. We've been very efficient with the technology that we've had in the past, but we continue to see that we may have reached a point where our growth may have kind of capped with the resources that we have, and we've maximized the use of the technology that we have, and we need to think about what else can we do to be efficient with our resources, and what else can we do to continue growing without adding team members and adding staff. And staff is our most expensive resource that we have at credit union, and probably the most valuable and most important also. But we can't continue adding more and more people just to continue growing. So we have to think about what else is available there and what other tools can we bring on board. And, as I mentioned, we came across and started exploring and seeing where AI can fit in. And because auto lending is such a large channel at Forum, it just became a natural fit and a natural place to think about its use first. We do, mortgage lending there's a lot of opportunity there, we believe, in the future, our commercial lending and our account opening and other things and other channels. And we're sure that there's plenty of additional use cases. And I think just auto lending, because of its size and kind of importance there, and we're constantly looking for ways to improve that area, just became the natural first use case.
Yeah, I think the idea here, as you're mentioning, is like identify something where the impact is going to be the greatest, right? Where the need is greatest, the impact could be greatest. And it is really about enabling people to get, more work, better work done, right? Take a lot of the more routine, more process-driven work off of their plate so they could spend more of their valuable time doing the high-value, critical thinking work that requires, kind of expertise in, right? And we all, in whatever role we have, in whatever industry we're in, we have plenty of things that you wish you could offload because you do need to do them, but they frankly don't require as much expertise, and you'd rather kind of offload them to software that you can trust and it can do that well, and it frees you up to then do more work. It's similar to I think how individuals discover and then use tools like ChatGPT or Perplexity to go and find value in their individual lives. I mean, I think the paradigm is really, how do you have similar types of experiences for some of the more complex workflows that exist in a space like this in banking, where, if you could offload some of the work to software, then it can help unlock more human productivity and potential at the end of the day.
Yes, definitely. And auto lending is a channel where there is a lot of repetition, a lot of the same data points that need to be evaluated and validated, and a lot of the same documents that are being reviewed. While there may be different variations of the documents, there's still a lot of the same data on each document. So it was a good use case from that standpoint also, where we could easily get, or we felt as if we could easily get some of the validations and some of the mundane repeated tasks off of our team members and allow them to focus on more higher level thinking and evaluation of the auto loan, and looking for fraud cases and other things that we really want them using their minds for and using their expertise for, and kind of taking some of the other time consuming tasks off their plate.
What made Multimodal the right partner for this journey, especially because I imagine there are hundreds of AI startups attacking similar categories at the end of the day?
Yeah, I think for Forum, we've tended to have a culture in the past of build versus buy, which means when we look for a partner and when we look at a new software solution, we don't necessarily want to plug and play. We want a software solution, or we want a vendor that really can adapt to us and can look and identify what is Forum specific needs, what are our specific processes, and what can truly have the most impact on Forum Credit Union specifically, and not just be a solution that seems to be a one-size-fits-all for auto lenders or for credit unions as a whole. And so when we started talking with Multimodal, and that was kind of one of the first things that kind of opened up to us, is Multimodal didn't come to us and saying, here's our solution, here's our software, here's what we have. We did talk about kind of what your capabilities are and what you can do for Forum, but there wasn't something that you just immediately pulled up and demonstrated and said, this is how it works. And we liked that. We liked that the approach the Multimodal took with us was to learn what's important to Forum, learn where you can have the greatest impact, and then think about and start having discussions for how you can build an AI solution to truly impact us specifically. And I think that's probably what stood out to us most, is that flexibility and the ability to build the solution for Forum. And definitely, we see that as we're going through the pilot, as we're moving forward, it's definitely coming out, and it's truly a custom solution that's been built for us and being able to tailor to meet our specific needs.
I think that's refreshing to hear, because we do hear similar things from other customers that we work with, where I think they choose us because we're able to go and partner with them in a deeper way, where it's not just, hey, here's a software, use it as you wish and get value from it. We try to go and step in and understand, what is the business need? How does the business work today? what are the things do we need to keep in mind as we think about integration so it really gets adoption? Because that change management piece is really critical. You could have really good software, but if it doesn't fit well within the existing process and workflow that a team operates out of in the ways that they're accustomed to, that they'd like, it introduces too much friction, right? It makes it hard to go and actually use in a more production capacity. And I think partnering in that way, I think it's the only way to drive really great outcomes at the end of the day. And I think what it also does is it opens up the opportunity to go and drive additional value after the initial use case is solved for, because on both sides what it's like working together, right? And you're able to expand kind of the initial opportunity to include more areas of automation, because there's plenty of areas even beyond kind of the initial beachhead, I'm sure, that we're working together, which is the auto loan space there.
Yeah, and I think something you mentioned earlier is very key also is, when you're working with a credit union, credit unions, there's a wide range of loan origination systems that we all use. There's a wide range of different core systems that we all use. There's a wide range of different, digital archive systems that we use. And there's no way that you can have just a one size fits all software that's kind of plug and play there. You have to adapt to kind of what are the specific needs, but also what are the solutions and systems that you're going to be integrating with. And so Forum, we have a loan origination system that we use for many years, but it's not the same as every other credit union. And so Multimodal has been willing to say, we'll learn your LOS and we'll learn your API to get to the LOS, and we'll figure it out and we'll build it. And it's been great to work with.
Can you describe what the auto loan process looked like before we started working together?
So we do a mix of both e-contracts as well as receiving paper contracts. And so we work with vendors such as Route One and DealerTrack, which are some of the larger, auto solutions there that are sending auto data to auto lenders. So we'll receive those documents, whether digitally or paper, and convert the paper contracts to a PDF for digital evaluation. But essentially, our team members, we have a group of funders that will evaluate the documents. They would have to go through a series of anywhere from 10 to 25 documents for each auto loan, and actually look at each individual document to verify that the documents are complete, that signatures are on each of them, that dates are on each of them, that the VIN number of a vehicle is consistent across each of the documents, that the person's name, the applicant's name, is consistent across all the documents. They have to look for things like, look at the expiration date on the driver's license and make sure that the driver's license is not expired and that the name matches. And so there's a lot of manual things that a team member is doing on all of those documents and reading those documents. And they got to a point where they were very efficient and they had a process down, and they kind of had their method of scrolling through a document, looking for the key things. But we're confident when there's so many manual things to look at and validate, and it's a person just doing that we're confident that there's room for error. There's things that are being overlooked that we know that we're going to identify once we automate more of that we're going to be catching some of those errors maybe we weren't catching before. So then the team members would have to extract some of that data themselves and do a lot of manual calculations from looking at the documents. And then there was a lot of manual keying into our loan origination system, where just things as simple as a payment amount or a kind of a sales price or a sales tax, and those things were manually entered into our LOS for formally kind of eventually pushing to our core system after that. So it definitely was a manual process, and we relied a lot on our team members to identify and to be detailed and thorough in their review of documents.
I mean, it is surprising that the more manual processes, the more steps a person has to take. You're basically just opening up more room for error. And sometimes you can't even measure, you're not even aware of all the error rates, just because there's so many steps are involved, right? And when you have someone that's very clear-headed, isn't overburdened with a lot of work, can take all the time that they want, yes, the error rates can fall, but that's just not the nature of actual work, right? People are stressed, they're overburdened, they burn out. It's just, these are hard days and hard work, and you will get the occasional error, and this ends up being a vulnerability, right? And so I think humans generally, are very good at many things, but when there's repetitive action, same action, it's almost like an eyes glazed over type of phenomenon is what I've seen. And I think it's surprising to see AI is able to do that
really well. Like it's able to reduce the error rate because it's able to understand what a process is. And after many examples, it gets progressively better to a point where it's at or better than human level performance. It takes some time, right? It doesn't happen overnight. You can't just like, without any examples and training get there. But over time, it gets really, really good at doing it. And then allows the people to basically do more review, right? Or they're able to kind of go and do the more higher value work. The reason why I think a lot of what you're saying resonates with me is, I used to be a bond trader where, one mistake could really be costly because you're trading at the wrong price, you're trading the wrong amount. And so you basically had to go through a checklist, almost like a pilot would, to make sure all the things that you would normally want to check for were checked for. And you would have to go and like physically on paper, like hit the checklist, right? Just to make sure that you got it done. Because there's no going back. Like if you make an error, it's done. The market has cleared the trade, and now you kind of, maybe you bought something that you meant to have sold, and you did the wrong amount. You fat finger something. So I am very acutely aware of the impact and the incidence rate of just human error, and I think this is one opportunity to reduce that by having AI do the more repetitive items as part of a workflow like this.
Yeah, absolutely. And also something else within auto lending, our volume can fluctuate fairly quickly at times. And, we may have days where we will expect our funding team to review 15 loans in a day. But then a month later, our volume may have spiked where in order for us to keep up with the loan demand, we may need them to do 30 loans a day instead of the 15. And we can't just add staff really quick and train people really quick to jump in and manage that volume. So the more that we can automate, I think the more we'll be able to truly manage keep the big fluctuations in volume also, and keep our teams level-headed and give them more of time to truly focus on what's important there and keep errors and so forth to a minimum when those volume surges happen. So, agree.
When you saw the first demos or outputs from the AI, what stood out to you?
Yeah, I think it was the flexibility. When the first demo that we saw from Multimodal, your team took some documents from us and did a quick demo to show how you can ingest a document and extract data. And our team was all in a room together, and we were kind of looking at that. And at first glance, we were thinking, well, it's kind of just simple and basic. There's a document and then their data comes out of it. But the more we sat in that room and started talking, we started thinking, well, now that the data is out of that, we can do this and we can do that. And our team's not having to sit and search for that data. And if you think about the minutes that our team takes to review a document and look for what that system just got out of it, it's just kind of opens up the possibility to say, this little task that may seem simple right here initially, it just opened up the possibility for a lot of ideas and suggestions and a lot of kind of collaboration amongst our team saying, let's do that. Or it kind of opened up our eyes for kind of what's possible, I guess.
It's funny you say that, because I think when people first see like documents that comes in, like an application, for example, with supporting documents, the parsing of the documents themselves, that's okay. Like you're like, okay, well, I see kind of value, some of the value there. But if that's all we did, right, it wouldn't be that valuable, because like, yeah, you solved a manual data entry piece, maybe something that could have been solved through a BPO, right? Like using offshore labor to reduce the expense of doing that, perhaps. But it's the flexibility to go well beyond that. And I think because of this technology, how great it's become, and how, for example, like the product team at Multimodal has built on top of this, it allows you to then drive decision making thereafter, right? And we've gotten to a point where it's not only doing the decision making, it's actually preparing like a summary report, like a memo. So going a step further and identifying, like, here are the things that are present, here are all the decisions that were made, here's why they were made, how they were made. And so it's doing the work that an underwriter or an analyst would do. And then I think the other thing is that there's flexibility to ask, and I don't know if you've seen this yet from our team yet, but being able to ask questions around that actual lending opportunity with context that might come from databases or third-party APIs or public web data, because there's certain things that you may not have built a decision flow for, that you may not explicitly be extracting from the documents themselves, but you want that ability to kind of be flexible and have AI get you more answers to questions that you didn't think about setting up in the first place. And when you combine all those legs, it feels really powerful because it's almost like having a 24/7 analyst that did a lot of legwork for you initially, well beyond the manual data entry, made decisions and prepared a memo, but then it's also able to retrieve answers to questions on the fly to give you full context and allow you to then kind of close out that opportunity and move on to the next one.
Yeah, I definitely think that the key piece in kind of getting the data out of the document is a key foundation that supports the next phase. And we are definitely seeing that decision AI piece of having that data. And we're doing a lot of calculations with it now and kind of comparing the calculations to different limits and guidelines that we have. But we also are starting to think, what can we do now that we have this data and we're going to have data of more and more loans coming through? Can we identify any trends within the data, or can we compare and look for outliers of the data to say, well, this one really doesn't make sense compared to what we typically see with an auto loan? And I'm sure there's more and more analysis that we're going to be able to do as we continue utilizing the solution more and more and kind of thinking about what's next.
I think that's a great segue into the following, which is a lot of people view these workflows as like single submission, single application, right? So it's almost like in isolation, you're handling one application packet. But what ends up happening is that when you have really good data flowing from each opportunity, each auto loan that opportunity that you see hit the desk, it allows you to have a portfolio level visibility. So you can see all of the lending opportunities that came through, which ones you decided to move forward with at what rates and which ones you didn't move forward with and why. And you're able to analyze that and then use that to improve even the credit assessments that you do, the underwriting that you do. And that visibility becomes really important because it allows you to then make better management and better strategy decisions as a whole, right? Are there areas that you could be more aggressive on, more opportunities you could be more aggressive on, or other opportunities where maybe you could be a little bit more conservative, right? Maybe you could kind of change the way that you're pricing it. And I think that level of data access and visibility and transparency, usually it isn't there because everyone's kind of so narrowly focused on just getting the tactical work done that they can't step in and see the forest for the trees. But I think when you solve like the more painful, more manual, more repetitive parts of the process, it allows the same team, same individuals to take a step back and look at the broader picture, which I think is to be massively enabling for a lot more than we could just imagine even today.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's one thing that we think kind of sets our auto lending program apart from maybe some others in the past also, is that we really focus on trying to identify kind of what's unique and what's different about a loan. And we don't just take data from a document and we fund it and we move forward and we give somebody a loan and say, have a nice day, enjoy your new vehicle. It's really more about, does this data make sense that's coming from our dealers? And does the data make sense that's coming from the documents? And does it make sense that this person would buy this vehicle? And does it make sense that this person in this position would make this income? And we really encourage and challenge our teams to dig in and look for all those uniquenesses, because that's where we identify fraud and we identify things that just aren't right. And we identify, different things that help protect the credit union and help protect our members that are borrowing from us as well. And so as you're saying there, definitely that's kind of as we continue going through the process of building out and utilizing AI more, we see that that's where we're going to continue expanding and continue improving amongst our teams, as well as allowing our teams to focus on those high level things and not worrying as much about the mundane task, and freeing them up to really focus on kind of the uniqueness of each individual auto loan.
Yeah, we often get this question more broadly. The market gets this question, which is, what do you do with the people's time when you've taken some of the work that they're doing presently off their plate? And what you're saying is that you're able to recycle that time to more valuable endeavors that wouldn't have gotten enough attention in the past, like looking at fraud patterns that, maybe with a closer eye, you'd be able to detect and protect some of the balance sheet against. But now you're able to, because you're able to reinvest those same people and their time and attention to more valuable endeavors, right? And I think that's going to be the massive unlock, which is if you take away the more routine, more repetitive, lower value items off of people's plates, you could then take those same attention and time and invest in more valuable things. Then the question is, which things do you invest in, right? But that's a really good problem to have.
Yeah, it's an exciting problem. So we continue to grow.
So I know we're currently in the integration phase. What has the experience been like from your perspective, going from, let's say, the design and configuration now to like the rubber hits the road and we're about to see some value directly in production?
Yeah, I think it's definitely an exciting experience. It's been kind of a learning experience for our teams at time too. We have team members that as we've gone through the process, we identified an initial scope up front and said, here are things that we want to validate with documents, and here are things we want to get out of documents, and here's what we want to do with it. But as we go through the process, we start to learn, oh, wow, we could do that, or we could do this, and we could do so much more. And so it's been a challenge to kind of reel our teams back a little bit and say, let's stick with the original scope. Let's perfect this. Let's learn from it. Let's see the impact that this has on our business. And then, once we're live and we continue to learn more, I'm sure there'll be another phase where we can kind of revisit and continue expanding in the future. So I think the process of working with the team and going through this integration process, it's been a very eye-opening and a kind of a learning process for everybody involved. But it's also been kind of an exciting process. It makes us think about what's next and what else can we do. And we're starting to kind of build that list of next phase and next things that we want to do. So it's been very exciting.
Yeah, I think of it as like AI fluency. Like none of us are natively AI fluent. We all had to learn and are still learning, right, what AI is, what it means for the work that we do, especially because like AI as a whole keeps changing. And so I think what you're describing is like, as you start seeing it firsthand, you absorb a lot more, and it kind of changes the way you look at the technology, and it opens up new possibilities. And then the question of like, what do you do when, and like, how do you sequence it? But the important piece is that, you're here, we're here together, working together to get that journey going. We speak to so many, in some cases, like many prospects that are a little bit more squeamish in terms of starting that journey. And our recommendation is always like, you want to get started on the journey, whether it's with us or someone else. Like the quicker you do, the more you'll learn. And that's going to help your teams get more AI fluent around what this technology is, how it works, how it can help their lives. And as that journey happens, it makes it better for you then kind of make future decisions, right? But if you never start the journey or start the journey too late, then all of a sudden the technology has kind of left you behind. Like there are a lot of things you could do and you're still kind of in the early days. And so it's almost like it would have been better, like even like, for example, the internet, right? At this point, 25 plus years ago, the companies that were like leaning into trying to get on the internet and use it and find ways to adopt it learned a lot more, to a point where like the ones that never kind of made that leap, they eventually just became more obsolete, right? And I think you may see similar trends with the adoption of AI. Like you have to get started. The sooner you do, the more you learn, and then it opens up more possibilities.
Yeah, I think that what you're sharing is exactly where we are. We're open to AI. We're starting to adopt AI, but we're also cautious about how quickly we move forward. As a heavily regulated financial institution, we have to protect our members' data. We have to be very aware of kind of what actions we're taking, and we have to lean on our technology team and security team and others just to make sure that we're not expanding beyond boundaries. We're not doing anything that will kind of, I guess, come back to hurt us in the future or harm our members or put our members in a kind of a prediction that we don't want to do.
Yeah, I think that's also equally important, right? It's like the business side wants great business outcomes and they're getting their hands on it. They're like kind of to the tip of the spear in many ways. But then when you talk about compliance, including security and governance and all these items, they become really important as well. You want to make sure all those boxes are well addressed. But again, you learn a lot by just testing it and trying it and getting involved and trying to figure what questions to even ask, right? And then hopefully answer them well, like as you go. So that all makes sense. How have your teams been collaborating with ours throughout the pilot so far?
Yeah, so it's actually been a good partnership. We meet with a couple members of the Multimodal team every Tuesday and every Thursday. We share a lot of things between there, also a lot of emails going back and forth. And the Multimodal team will, every day or every meeting that we have, it seems like there's a next step or something that has been accomplished since the previous one. And there are times where, too, that there will be like the document AI process where data was extracted. There would be a file that's delivered to our team to validate and to verify and to kind of verify the accuracy of what the Multimodal team has built there. And So that during that process, our team learned a little bit about kind of what's this process going to look like and what's the data look like when it's coming out. And that was very helpful. And so it's definitely been a very methodical process that every time we meet, there's a next step or something else that's accomplished. And it seems like sometimes we may take little baby steps, but I think that that's important, that we want to be very detailed and really understand what's accomplished since the last time we met and what's going to be accomplished the next time we meet. And then we collaborate and discuss about those changes in between each meeting as well.
What about changing the culture of the organization so that they're because like I imagine like AI is a little daunting because it's so net new. There's a little bit of fear in some cases. How has the mind shift shifted by undergoing a project like this together? And what does it mean for like future endeavors and projects that you launch using AI?
Yeah, I think that by seeing each individual step of what's taking place to build the solution that we're building with Multimodal, it helps our team learn more about what's taking place with AI. And because of that, that is kind of creating a little bit more of a comfort level. So our team understands, at least it's not as much of a daunting task or this sci-fi thing that we're dream about what is AI, but we're able to truly understand what are the processes that are taking place to put in place there. And that is helping our team to understand and not only understand kind of what the possibilities are and how it can be used in other channels and other areas, but it's definitely creating a comfort level where we know what's taking place there. And it's not just a mystery that documents and something happens, but we're able to learn a little bit along the way and appreciate the Multimodal team of going through the steps that we are to help us learn through those processes and develop that comfort level.
I think a lot of people, when they think about AI, they think about AI as being overly capable. Like it's just easy to use, you just to tell it what to do and it does all this. I think that's shifted because people realize the limits from having used like ChatGPT and Perplexity in their individual lives. But in some cases, there's like skepticism, like, okay, well, I could see it how I could answer a question that I have, but this thing that we have is so sensitive. It's so critical. I can't imagine AI getting it right, or the error is going to be too high. And so there's a lot of skepticism and maybe fear. And it's only after you start partnering in this way do you start understanding what AI is really good at, where the limits are, and how it can start adding value. And the fact is that technology, like the models themselves, are getting so good so quickly that a year from now, it's going to be able to do far more than what it could do today. And the idea here is that you could scale this up to multiple areas of the business, right? But now you have an organization that culturally is leaning more into AI, understanding how it works, seeing the value that it's able to deliver. There's a level of openness that I think occurs when it's again hands on the keyboard versus something that is like a far off concept that people have in their heads.
Yeah, I think for some of our auto loan funders that will be utilizing the system and benefiting directly and becoming more efficient, they've been able to sit in on meetings with us as well and learn through this process. And I think that initially when they heard what we were going to be working on, there was a little bit of a fear that we're going to be replacing them, that we're not going to need people anymore, that we're going to be completely automating 100% and taking away the need and the demand for our team members. And I think that we're learning that that's not the case. It's really more complementing, taking away some of the mundane tasks and allowing them to actually elevate their position, allowing them to be more higher level thinking. And it changes their position. It changes the way that they would be doing their job every day. But I think that they see a little bit more of a comfort level also, that they see that, wow, this is exciting. This is very helpful. It's a great tool for me, not replacing me. So there's a little bit of a fear there as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely agree. I think that's a very natural thing. And we've seen that many times over. For other, let's say, credit unions or maybe financial institutions more broadly, what's your advice if they're basically also starting out on their AI journey, given your experience so far?
Yeah, I think my advice is kind of taking steps like we have, really identifying a process that you see is right for automation or has a great opportunity to kind of have a difference and be able to have a lot of efficiency gains. And whether it's a small task or a large task, but just try something. Get started somewhere. Get started with a small task to learn and experience, and take minimal risk by doing that. But just really identify somewhere within your credit union where there's a process you can automate and get started with it and learn from that and help your teams learn what's possible with it as well. So I think it's just getting started.
And then last one here for us, in one sentence, how would you describe Forum's relationship with AI right now?
I think I'd say we are very eager to continue learning more, and then cautiously optimistic about how we will continue to utilize AI in the future as well.
Amazing. Well, Chris, really appreciate the conversation here and excited for what our teams are working on together. But I'm also equally excited to go and think about the other sets of use cases that I'm sure AI can be supportive on. So it'll be a really fun journey partnering together with you on this.
Yep, absolutely. Excited to continue moving forward and appreciate the partnership of Multimodal so far.